Hi, so in this video, let's find out how we can connect from one machine to another remotely. So most of your computations will be done away from where your computers or your high performance computers actually sit. So you should be able to connect your machine to a different machine so that even though you are on your machine, you'll be working on a different machine. So how do you do that? Usually you just need to use the SSH command on bash. So we already found out how you can um, use the bash commands in a previous video. During the bash commands, you need a terminal. So the terminal is when you interact with your computer using the command line interface. So we are on the command line interface here, and we are currently located at the desktop. What you need to do now is to move from your local machine to a remote machine away from you. So we use the SSH command, and the command is very straightforward. So SSH, your username at then your IP address. Okay, so that's all you need to know. So let's assume that I'm working on this particular laptop and I want to connect to another laptop. You first have to know the username of that laptop and then the IP address of that laptop. Then you can remotely connect to it and work on that machine. So how do you do that? If it's a Windows machine, you just go to the Windows command interface. So let's do CHM, CMD means command. You press enter and it gives you the Windows command prompt. So at the Windows command prompt, you want to know your username, just type who am I, and then it gives you the username after the forward slash. So the username is what you see here. Yeah, so this comes, pardon me, after the backslash. So you see the name there, Trave. So Trave should be the username. Then if you want to know your IP address of this machine, the IP address, you do ipconfig and press enter, and then it's going to give you a lot of information, but the information you want is the IP4 address, so it's right here. And then you can take this IP address 1.9.16, so that's all you need, and then the password for this particular machine. So I'm done with the Windows command line. I'm going back to my Linux command line, which is available to me using mobile extem. So let's go to mobile extem. I think my mobile extem has closed, so I'm just going to relaunch it. So my desktop and then open mobile extem. So on the terminal, I'm going to type my username and password that I have copied or I have identified that I want to move to. So let's assume this is a different machine. I'll be moving from this machine to the new information that I have, and the username is Trave at 192 dot. Let me go back and get the full thing. So it's 192.168.19. So it's 168.19. So this is what I need to move from my local machine to an external machine that is not directly with me now, right? So you press enter, and then the only problem is that I'm trying to log on to the same machine, so it's a problem. But if you have another machine that you want to work on, like you want to use its processor and memory and not what you currently have, then you can do that connection. Now with the clusters, universities would give you a host name to use in place of the IP address. So you just again type your, like we did SSH space your username on the cluster at the host name of that university. So let's take, for example, KNUST will have a host name for its cluster. So my username on the cluster is Caroline Qual. So I'm going to do Caroline Qual at then the host name. Okay, so the host name will usually be like the cluster's name. So discovery is the name of the cluster dot knust.edu.gh. That's typically how it would look. It could also be Caroline Kwao at, let's say, favor, assuming that favor was a cluster, dot kent dot ac dot UK. So it could be any other thing. And then once you type, the domain name or the host name of the cluster, you can just type your username at the host name that the university has for its cluster. But it will typically start with the cluster's name and the institution's URL. So let's press enter. And then because this is not an actual cluster name, that's why nothing happens. Okay, so when you press enter, it's going to ask you for your password on the cluster, and then you type it in. And once you press enter again after typing the password, you have access to the cluster. So I'm typically going to skip a few steps and then be on a cluster and show you without having to let you know the sequence of steps. Yeah, so here I've logged into a cluster, right? If you look at my local machine, let me open a different terminal. On my local machine, this is the machine name that I'm on. So it's actually home mobile XM. But on the cluster, I'm no longer at home mobile XM. I'm now at CQAU and I'm logged in onto a cluster. So your prompt is going to be on a different location. So whatever I do here is no longer on my local machine. Whatever I'm doing here, I'm interacting with the machine that is in KNUST, that is in University of Kent, or that is in South Africa. And then over here, I'm going to be interacting with the physical machine I have that is right in front of me. So that's